Hi, today we're going to do a tour of Catalina.Island. Catalina.Island is actually Santa Catalina Island, part of the Channel Islands of California, and it's located about 19 and a half miles from California, or 22 miles from Los Angeles. The island is extremely rocky, and in fact that's one of the attributes that the island became famous for. There are several quarries on the island that are still remain from the old days, and I believe are still used to this day. Santa Catalina was actually named after St. Catherine by some Spaniard explorer, but it's now simply called Catalina. The island is approximately 22 miles long by 8 miles wide. The highest rocky point is approximately 2,100 feet. The population of the island is about 4,000, and most, 90% of the people, live in the city of Avalon. Avalon means beautiful gem. Well, I see our helicopter is about ready, so let's get on board and take a tour around the island. Okay, we're going to start our tour by ignoring Avalon, which everybody goes to because it's the most popular place on the island. And we're going to fly by Pebbly Beach, which is the industrial area of the island, and where the power station is located for the island. Beverly Beach from 1927 to 1937 was the home of Catalina Ceramic Company, and they used the red clays from the island to produce ceramic tiles, dinner plates, and other forged materials. And that lasted through 1937. We're passing now Edison Point. This is a Jewfish Point and the East End Quarry, one of the quarries I was talking about on the island. We're now passing what's known as Seal Rocks. As we're going around this point here, the East End Light is located. Yes, rocks were the reason that Catalina became well known. It's essentially the island is made up of three types of rock. Quartz, something called a Catalina schist, which is a mixture of rocks, green schist, blue schist, amphoриtes, soapstone, and many others. And thirdly is volcanic rock. And these rocks were used for a lot of the construction projects around Southern California and offshore to build breakwaters. Plus there is also a usage of their red clay for the previously discussed pottery projects. Those cliffs on the right are called Palisades. In that area, further inland, is where the Wrigley Memorial and Botanic Gardens are located. Wrigley is the chewing gum magnate from the 1920s, who essentially bought most of the property on the island. And his son started a conservatory, the Catalina Conservatory. We're now passing Silver Canyon Landing, and up ahead is the Salta Verde Point. Catalina didn't become populated until after the 1920s. Of course, there was no fresh water on that island. But Wrigley changed that when he came in. He put a lot of money in and made the island a tourist attraction. Now going past China Point. Oh, now we're at Ben Weston Point, and there's the old Ben Weston Beach and the new Ben Weston Beach on our right. Next is Sentinel Rock and Cottonwood Beach. Those rocks on the right are the Indian Head Rock. And there's Rangers Point. So the harbor, the first harbor on the right is called Sharks Harbor. And that little piece of land sticking out is called Whale's Tail because it looks like a whale's tail. The next little harbor there is called a Little Harbor. We're now passing Pedestal Rock, and up ahead we're going to be going into Catalina Harbour and the other populated area of Catalina, which is called Two Harbors. It's not an incorporated city, and it's called Two Harbors because there's a harbour on both sides of the city. It's not really a city, but a town. It's another tourist attraction like Avalon. Okay, we're now passing Catalina Head, and it's Lobster Point on the right, Lobster Bay, and Cape Cortez. We're now passing Kelp Point. That's Whale Rock on the right. Ribbon Rock. And we're going into the Ironbound Bay. There's a Ribbon Beach and Spring Landing on the right. There's Star Bay and Cactus Bay. We're now passing by Eagle Rock and the west end of the island, and this is called Land's End. We go around Land's End. We're passing by Starlit Beach, Black Point, and that's Lorenzo Beach and Stony Point. And that area over there is Parsons Landing. That jutted out area out there is called Arrow Point. And we're going around Doctor's Cove. We're now in Emerald Bay. We're now by Howard's Landing. We're now going by Cherry Cove and what's known as the 4th of July Cove. And that big cove on the right is the Isthmus Cove, which is part of Two Harbors. There's the Blue Cavern Point. An interesting side note here is that this is the spot where Natalie Woods, an actress who was in Miracle on 34th Street as a child, and she played the part of Maria in West Side Story. This is where she drowned in 1981. This is where a body was found, essentially, right off Blue Cavern Point. She had slipped overboard, I guess, from her yacht, her and her husband Robert Wagner's yacht. And there was a lot of speculation of what was going on, because Christopher Walken was on board at the same time, and nobody heard her fall overboard. She had some bruises and stuff, but essentially it was ruled as an unfortunate accident at the time. So now we're going to leave Two Harbors and head on back towards Avalon. We're passing by, and the Purdington Caves and Sprouting Caves are in this area on the right. We're passing by another quarry area, which is the Empire Quarry, and that inlet in there is called Empire Landing. We're now by Ripper's Cove, and the next cove is Paradise Cove. The wall over there on the right is called Lava Wall. We're now passing by Gibraltar Beach, Cabrillo Beach, and Goat Harbour. In this area is where if inland is where the airport in the sky is located. We'll be landing at that airport later. We're now passing by the Italian Gardens, and Long Point Beach, and that jetted area out there is Long Point. So that little beach in there is called Button Shell Beach. We're now passing what's known as the Hen Rock, and in that area, cove area there, is called White's Landing. That other cove next to it is called Moonstone Cove. We're passing by Turquoise Spring and Willow Cove. And that bay area in there is called Toyon Bay. That beach area there is called Gallagher Beach. Avalon is where most of the tourists go, and it's almost like Europe in California, or the West Coast version of Cape Cod. Most people from California would go there because they had lovely clear water, where the water on the coastline of California is usually murky. But unfortunately, that clear water has been polluted for a number of years. It had been the beaches off Avalon were off Catalina. Most of Catalina were one of the 10 most polluted beaches in the United States, and they spent millions and millions of dollars upgrading the sewer system so that they could finally get off that list, so that they're not polluted anymore, supposedly. We're now passing by Hamilton Cove and DeSanto Beach. DeSanto Beach is a private beach open to the public. And the reason that's so is because you're not allowed to drink in California on any of the beaches. And in order to get around it, that loophole, they called it a private beach, but allowed the public in. We're now passing by the Casino Point, and that's the Catalina Casino that you see there on the right. Casino in front of us, though it appears small, it's actually equal to about 12 stories high. This casino was built by Wrigley, again, the chewing gum magnate, in about 1929, and it's used as a movie theater and a dance hall. The movie theater itself has a capacity of about 1,200 people and a single screen. It was one of the first movie theaters built particularly for the talkies, when the talkies came about. Inside the theater, there was a ballroom below. It's the world's largest circular ballroom, and it has a 180-foot diameter dance floor that can accommodate about 3,000 dancers. So it's a huge structure. Moving on to Avalon itself. Avalon, the main city, was incorporated in 1913, but before that, in the 1860s, a German immigrant with the last name of Timms ran a sheep business from the island, and the city of Avalon at that time was called Timms Landing. The major construction on there were 2 houses and about 30 tents back in the 1800s. Then the city was tried to become a resort destination by a fellow by the name of George Shadow, who was a real estate speculator from Grand Rapids, Michigan. After him, eventually was bought out by, and Avalon was bought out by Wrigley, who bought a controlling interest in all of Catalina.Island. And so from there, Wrigley spent a huge amount of money and brought ships in to make this a resort destination from like 1929 on. After his death in 1932, his son Philip Wrigley took over the Santa Catalina company, and they made a Santa Catalina Conservatory out of it in 1975. Wrigley also brought attention to Avalon because he owned the Chicago Cubs, and they had their spring training there from 1921 to 1951. Over on the left is Lover's Cove. In the 1920s, they had a inclined railroad that went from Lover's Cove up to the top of where there was a what was the casino at that time, and down to the other side, another inclined railroad that went down to the Avalon, and it used to cost about 25 cents. By the way, to get to Avalon by boat, it cost approximately $100 per round trip. Well, this concludes the tour of Catalina. We're going to head back to the Catalina airport. If you enjoyed this tour and you'd like to see some of the other videos I produce, please subscribe to the channel, and it'll keep you informed of upcoming tours or flights that I take. Thank you very much.